I remember the first time I ever went sheep hunting down the Wrangell Mountains. A friend of mine named Ed Strunk here, who operated a cafe in town, wanted me to go with him, so I went. Our friend Ward Gay took us out to a camp that he had for some sheep hunters. He was a big game guy, but he wasn't using the camp for a week, and we went out there. Got up about 4 o'clock in the morning, made a pot of coffee, looked up on the side of the mountain, and there was 4 white spots way up there on a mountain across the creek and a little old valley from us. And we decided there was our sheep. We didn't eat any breakfast. We just had some coffee, and we put our guns on our shoulders and started up the mountain. Problem was, when we got up to where we could see what it was, glass and see what it wasn't sheep at all, it was goats. We didn't want a goat, we wanted sheep. But we looked down across a few ridges, and there was some more white spots over there. And we went. It took us 3 or 4 hours to get over there to where we could glass them good. And they were sheep, all right. 4 rams, but they weren't legal. You had to have, that year you had to have at least a half curl before the ram was legal. So we couldn't shoot them. Well, we looked way on down the line, a nice looking ram. Some more ridges down. So we went over there, and it was, I don't know, it was getting late in the afternoon by the time we got over there. And I shot that ram, and he went cartwheeling down an old slate slide that's between the ridges and some of those mountains. It took us a long time to get down there to where he was. We got down there, nearly every bone in his body was broken. One of his horns was knocked off, and never did find it. But anyway, we boned out what meat we could salvage, and had to bring that head with one horn in it back in case we were checked up on by the Fish and Wildlife to show that it was a legal ram. It was really nice. It would have made a nice trophy for somebody. But anyway, it got dark on us. We started down the mountain, got dark on us, and started raining. Well, there wasn't much brush around there. There wasn't any trees at all. It was up above timberline, but there was some small brush. We didn't have any rain gear. We just got wet, and it was cold. I finally gathered up some little old sticks, around some little old brush, and I whittled off the wet part and finally got a fire started. Oh, I don't know, it was about that big around, and all night long I fed that little old fire, trying to warm up just a little bit. I'd go out and gather up little old twigs and sticks and things lying around, and kept the fire going good enough to where they'd dry them off and they would burn. My friend Ed was hungry. He just said, let's eat some of the sheep. Well, we had no salt, we had nothing. But he cut off some little chunks of that sheep meat, and he stuck it on a little old stick, and he held it over that little old fire. It got black on the outside. I think it was soot, not charcoal. But he bit into that thing, the blood run down out of the corner of his mouth, and he started eating that thing. He said, you want a piece? I said, nah, I'm not that hungry yet. But there we sat in the rain all night long, shivering in a little bitty fire. And when daylight broke, Ed said, well, I don't have a load on my pack board. I'll go on down to the tent on the lake, then I'll cook up some stuff so when you get there, you can, you'll have something to eat. And you go a little slower now. So I had the sheep on my packboard, and Ed took off, and I went on down the mountain. I found the trail over to the lake. I went over to the lake and found the tent, but no Ed anywhere. Now, I'd shot a couple of ducks the night before, the afternoon before, and had made a duck stew, which was on a little old, what we call a Yukon stove there in the tent, and I built me up a fire in there, and I started warming it up. I put on some more coffee and started fixing something to eat because I was hungry too. We hadn't had anything all day and all night. We've been climbing around over those mountains, and I didn't know where Ed was. There was a shotgun there in the tent. I took that shotgun, went out to the lake shore and shot it 2 or 3 times. And I went back, and my duck stew was getting hot. My coffee was made, and I ate. And we had some chocolate bars there, and I ate 3 or 4 of them too. And I was hungry. Then I went out in front of the tent, and I shot 2 or 3 more times with that shotgun. Now, Ed, I finally, after about an hour and a half, I heard some shots way down the lake. I went down the lake shore, and I could see Ed way down to the other end of the lake. He had bypassed the tent. He hadn't found it some way or the other, and had gone way on down. That light passed down. Well, anyway, he came around the lake shore and finally got back to camp. It was quite a hunting trip we had. I would have got my first sheep.